Hi.
Hi. Hi, Tibbs. Welcome to a weigh-in.
Hey there, stranger.
The show where what the
Stop
fuck?
by.
The show where three guys record in the middle of the fucking night while they're really stupid and tired. Welcome to a weigh-in.
Not the weigh-in.
No, we're not the weigh-in. We're just a weigh-in because the weigh-in is already taken.
Asterisks.
But I did put a weigh-in podcast on Twitter just so maybe people would notice that it's a podcast and not just some weird account.
It's both.
It's a bunch of guys that are away, you know?
Yeah. So football's back. At least the real football that everybody cares about is back. It was a good weekend.
Go Buccaneers.
Go Buccaneers.
So yeah, I don't appreciate this subtle digs at the MLS and the quality of our Toronto Football Club.
I mean, if anyone saw that long-range Messi goal, you'd realize how discounted certain individuals are in this league.
Well, you know what's the best part of that? The goalie Messi scored against is probably the best keeper in MLS. I mean, he has been for several years. This year, maybe not the number one, but like he is legitimately one of the best MLS keepers, and he had just a horrible game.
Yeah, that was sad. I mean, it was also sad that Messi has so much space. I mean, it's kind of funny.
He just
can go to Saudi Arabia, though, you know? It seems like a never-ending train of players saying, I don't want to compete for anything that matters, but I will take that money. Thank you, sir.
Speaking of Saudi Arabia, did you see the fake little World Cup trophy that they made just to make Ronaldo happy?
Wait, was that the 24 karat gold one that they tried to like make a meme of next to the World Cup, saying it was only like 16 karat or something stupid like that? Like, oh, sorry. That's a very Saudi Arabia thing to do, though, for their league. You know, this one more,
has the blood of children in it, so you know it's a little bit.
Therefore, more precious.
Better. It's special. It has their souls intertwined with the 24 karat gold. It adds that allure and that extra shine.
We still have their passports.
How fragile is his ego, though? They have to go and make a trophy that looks like the World Cup just to make him feel better. And then also at the same time, he's got like his PR team going crazy. Oh, he hit 600 million followers on Instagram. He's so special and amazing.
I want like the Champions, those cartoons they made, the Champions League. Yeah. I want like that kind of cartoon, but like a little Lord Fauntleroy version where like Ronaldo's like, this league's not good enough. You need to find all these good players. Bring them over here so I feel important. And they're like, yes, sir. Yes, Ronaldo. Look at them right away. How about Ruben Neves? Not good enough. How about Conte? I'll get her. Just keep showing him players being like, what about Benzema? He won. No,
it has to end with Neymar. With Neymar getting signed and just getting a better overall package with like crazy, have you seen his list of demands where it's like a standby jet, a fridge full of Asahi and some other berry, like stocked at all times, all restaurant and some other kind of outings covered, transportation, like all covered by the club. Just really wacky random demands.
And
I'm almost very confused as to why he'd want a fridge full of Japanese beer.
Not that one, but
different Asahi, super berry Asahi.
He gets 500,000 euros for every time he posts something about Saudi Arabia on social media.
But now imagine Ronaldo seeing that and the skit and telling him like, oh, well, we brought Neymar for you. And he sees his contract and be like, oh, fuck this guy. Where's my agent?
Well, it's only a 2-year deal too.
Asahi berry fucking fridge.
I saw a clip the other day of just some random fan after a game was like out greeting the players as they're going back to the bus, and this random dude just gave Fabinho a fucking Rolex, just like, oh, you had a good game, here's a Rolex.
It's like you see like some league in Africa or India, and it's like they give him a fish for man of the match. All right, it's not exactly a fish, or maybe a case of beer in Poland or Czech third division. Like it's it's a Saudi version.
What about the good old days? You should just get a cap.
Get a cap and a pack of smokes.
Yeah. Here's a hat. Protect you from the rain so your smoke doesn't go out. God damn, that's forward thinking.
Set you up right for the next match.
God, man. Those are the days.
So what you guys you guys got like a couple takeaways from the Premier League weekend we just had?
So where's our fancy graphics board? I'm looking for that somewhere. I don't see it on the screen.
Oh, you don't see it?
It would have our agenda and talking points.
Well, I have a list of talking points. Just let you see it. That's all. Like keep you on your toes.
You have to use descriptive terms. This is audio only, so.
So yeah, I think we all were excited to actually have Premier League come back finally after feels like forever, even though it's like 3 months. But the most surprising thing was probably Wolves. Just, I would say, arguably, dominating Man United, at least especially in midfield, for almost an entire game, and then not surprisingly being robbed in the last minute. But for a team that a week before said was maybe going to be relegated, and I wasn't really sure, but I said they're a candidate. I completely changed my mind. Just one game has convinced me. Like, that's a quality team. That's actually, they're vibing together. They're connecting. How many runs in the middle of the field through the midfield they had, where they're just literally outrunning like a handful of Man United players, and feel like, wow, this is a team in the Champions League.
This is when you'd show that Cunha run where he just embarrasses. I think it's Fernandez and then Martinez, and oh my god!
But that same run, a similar version happened like 4 times in the game. I'm like, man, that's like, to be doing that. It's not just one thing. Oh, maybe they just did a smash and grab or something, but like to actually outplay them and run through them like that again and again and again. And this is a Champions League team that finished 4th place last year, and it's just like, this was a team that should have been relegated. Really, how bad they were. Barely survived
because
they lost their manager.
Yeah. I saw some certain pundits saying that United actually made Wolves look good. It's like, what, this team's supposed to be like competing for the title, apparently, according to a couple people, and in the same breath, they were bad enough that they're making Wolves look good. What?
United made, yeah. I wonder what the bias is of that. Honestly, sometimes I hate how obvious a publication's bias or a writer's bias is. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, you got some interest in Man U. Like, come on, they made them look like they would be lucky to get in the top 6 after a performance like that. You spent how much money? Sure, Højlund's friggin' not fit, but who knows if he's going to even fire off anyway. Mm-hmm. You got like, literally just garbage. It was a terrible performance. I watched that whole game, man. And Cunha and honestly, Sarabia, good old PSG reject, they were playing very, very well. I mean, not to discount the efforts of the rest of the team, but Cunha especially, I was very impressed with his play. And he seemed to just walk all over. I feel like Martinez went off, like he got subbed off at like halftime for freaking
he did.
Lindelof too. I feel like that was just an embarrassment. I'm just, pull me off, say my leg was off, because I'm getting embarrassed out there. Like, legitimately, I don't know. Maybe I missed it. I didn't see any like clear injury call out from him. Yeah, it seemed like literally my ego is injured. I need to be taken off.
I was going to say, there hasn't been anything talking about his injury.
No,
I'm curious though, if you guys had the same confusion that I did during the game. Does it not feel like 40% of Wolves' team is like the same dude? Like a ambiguously Brazilian or Portuguese player. And it's like playing in 4 different positions. And they do rotate a little bit, so they kept searching, and I was just like, wait a second, which one was this? And I just felt myself deeply confused. And I actually had to look up the team sheet later and be like, who was who? Because I'm not familiar with any of them. I was not familiar with them, and I'm like, they all seem Portuguese. I'm not really sure who is who. Especially because sometimes the names in the back also don't correspond.
When you had Nintendo Entertainment System at the helm over there, they were hella Portuguese. It's like and that's probably why they gelled. It's like legitimately every player on this team speaks the same language. Now, freaking that's another one that went over to Saudi Arabia. I could never not think of Super Nintendo when I saw his because they always have the monogram on the coach shirt. So you see Nuno, just like, oh, NES. I remember that. Duck Hunt was pretty good. They look very, very good, though. Honestly, I thought they looked fantastic. You know what else was a surprise for me? Everton. I thought that they looked pretty damn tasty. I won't lie to you. And I was very surprised because I thought they were going to be horrible. And I'm like, their mid looks pretty solid.
They're a little unlucky to not score. Well, Leno having an incredible performance.
Yeah, I thought they played very, very well. They looked very promising. And we have I don't know if we mentioned this last time, we have a fantasy league going where proper fantasy where only one manager can have one player, but I was really sad to lose out on Madison. We shift over to Tottenham real quick. I knew he was just going to, come on, I was at Leicester last time, underperforming team, and he played so well. Now he's actually... Everybody hates Tottenham, except for the rare Tottenham fan, which
I was going to say, you were about to say now he's in a good team, and you had to pull it back.
I had to pull it back. I have to, you know what? I got to frame it. I have to frame it, right? I don't want people to think this guy's an idiot. He's just like, Tottenham's a good team. I am aware. They're horrible team.
Relative to Leicester last year, yeah, Tottenham is a good team.
They have good bodies, and I won't even attempt to pronounce. I'm terrible with Greek pronunciation, so I won't even attempt to pronounce his name. But anyway, Mr. Greek, Australia. Yeah, Angie. He might be the right kind of manager. He seems like I'm not big enough of an ego to get upset with Levy. I could probably just ride the tide. I always thought it was hilarious when we went for Mourinho. So I'm like, I'm stupid. This is going to end well. I can only imagine. I wish I was a fly on the wall to any meeting with Levy and Mourinho. That would have been great. But did you see? I sent you guys. I don't know if you looked at it, but I sent you guys a screen capture. Somebody from the Chelsea subreddit found this old thread where they were talking about when Poch got sacked, and they're like, "Man, imagine Poch having a full preseason and 500 mil kit bag or kitty to spend." He snapped that, shared it on the Chelsea subreddit, and like, this is aged fine like wine. It's pretty hilarious. It's sad that they always seem like they're almost there, you know. And especially now they lost Kane. Good for Kane though. We'll see how he fares. But funny club, very funny club. I almost watched Peep Show again rewatched it, but I remember that was
Speaking of Kane, I saw this tweet from Michael Owen that I wanted to bring up. This is before Kane confirmed the deal going over. But so Owen, in all of his amazing knowledge, says, "I know FC Bayern are a massive club, and I have huge respect for them. But if I were Harry Kane, I'd stay put. There's no great achievement winning a trophy with them. Real Madrid, I would understand, or two top Premier League clubs for that matter. Becoming the all-time Premier League top goal scorer at Spurs is a bigger achievement than winning the league in a country dominated by one team." Coming from the guy who is known in Liverpool as Judas at this point because he literally went to United just to win a trophy.
Man, at this point, he's just being like, I need to make my safest bet. And also, what other team was even going to spend that much money for him? They would have never let him go to a rival.
Well, that's the thing. Like, people keep talking about, well, why didn't United just go for the 100 million? So, do you really think that Levy is stupid enough to sell Kane to any of his domestic rivals? He's not completely regarded, but
they'd also pay the English tax on that 100 mil.
Yeah, it'd be like 200 mil.
I can't imagine any player truly putting a random record, because records at the end of the day, it's like any statistic. It's where you put your start and end point to change the record and whatever. So, someone putting that above a trophy of it, like an actual domestic championship, that's nonsense anyway. So just from the beginning, that makes no sense. He would rather, I would imagine, most players, any of you, would you rather win a domestic championship, if you were a professional player playing in like the Eredivisie or in Portugal, rather than getting some random thing, a random record in England, never getting a trophy.
Well, it's simple. Records are made to be broken, so like it's not like that's not gonna last forever. But knowing that you won something, especially like when you spend your whole life to become like get to the peak of your abilities to play professional like that, to win something is what it's all about. It doesn't matter about like having some stupid individual record that'll be held on to for 10, 20 years before somebody else, or maybe 5 years, because Haaland could break that record before he turns 30. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I'd take the trophy.
Especially if you're considered like the generational talent, the best striker England's had in this generation. And then somebody like, oh, he was the greatest striker? What did he win? Oh, nothing.
Sweet,
but he was the greatest striker.
Well, think about every other fan other than a Tottenham fan in regards to Harry Kane. You think that's sad. Like he's a great player. There's no argument about it. He's strong. He's got great finishing. He's got good movement, good football brain, and he's got really nothing to show for it. That's such a small thing. It's like, no, man, you want to be like champion in the Champions League consistently, being in a team that has a chance. I mean, Pochettino, sure, he made it to the final, but like that's like once in a blue moon for a club like Tottenham. And especially the way that the Premier League is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I don't blame him for making the move. I don't think he's going to go to Real Madrid either, because it was literally, in my opinion, it's like you're going to go to either Real Madrid or Bayern. Real Madrid is going to sign Mbappe, so why would the hell would they ever want Kane? Mm-hmm. Bayern makes sense because he's literally the exact mold that they want. They love that big, strong center forward striker. He fits their mold very, very nicely.
I don't see how Kane would ever fit in at Madrid. I'm sure some brilliant pundit that knows a lot more than me would make the argument how it'd work, but like Kane just seems too slow and cumbersome to play in the system that Madrid played to me. But I think it'd work well at Bayern.
Hey, if
it's funny you say that, because I feel like he's a pretty similar profile in some ways, not exactly, to Benzema, because Benzema is not fast. Like he has some lankiness, which he can get some big strides and whatever, but like so he's maybe faster than Kane, but they both kind of have that, not necessarily out and out striker, but a striker that really helps in the build up and helps actually create play, but it also gets on the end of it in a way that there's not too many that are like that, at least in that one angle of what they bring to the team. So interestingly enough, I think actually he would be one of the only people who could fill in that position at Real Madrid, but not like for like, but
I mean,
kind of similar in a unique
position. Like that, but they all have it. It's like, hey, you want to have a lot of mobile people like behind the striker and around. Like you have your very, very mobile, technically gifted wingers and center attacking center mids, and you have your hold up, clean up striker. Benzema was that. Lewandowski was that. You want to go back through Bayern's history, that's all they've ever had. I mean, even Suarez, for the most part, he was just, give it to me, I'm going to kick it, it's going in.
That's what I'm saying. That Benzema, I don't think is like that. Benzema is the one that although he obviously he's prolific in finishing, but like that wasn't what made him, special. It was how important he was to everything leading up to the attack. So not necessarily that he would drop back super deeply, but it was like having a creative attacker along with this clinical finisher to kind of play, doing half of each, whereas most are, one or the other very often. Like some of the other ones you listed are just like Lewandowski is a prolific finisher, right? Like you just give him the ball and he'll score. But with Benzema, he like created it, right?
For sure, yeah. But I think they both. It was just a matter of like, even you think of Lewandowski's heyday, it was like you had Robin and Ribéry around at that time as well, and it was the same sort of deal. It's like I can make things happen, but really hit the ball up. I will get to it. I will hold it. I'll pass back if I need to. I think Benzema was a little bit more involved than that. I agree. But those are the essential things you need in a big team like that. It's like, hey, if there's any pressure on us, I want to be able to like boot it up. You hold it up. We have so many great players. Pass it off. But a lot of the times, I mean, they were getting silky smooth, especially when you had Bale and Ronaldo around. And Benzema was always the unsung hero. I think that's because of some of the work he did off of the ball, for sure. Even pulling players away from channel.
I guess I never really saw that much of Benzema in that regard, just because I was so used to just seeing him score so many goals against us whenever we played him that I didn't notice the rest of his game that well.
I think when Ronaldo was there, it was very important.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, like that at that era was the best time to see that, because he wasn't the focal point. He became the focal point when you had people that were trying to like make a name for themselves, like Vinny and Fede. Then he was like, oh, he's the big name. He's the one who's getting it done. He was getting hat tricks like there were a dime a dozen. But when Ronaldo was there, and the height of like Modric and Kroos, he's pulling all these strings, and you don't even notice the importance of that. Somebody tried to make that argument about Sterling the other day, and I'm like, you don't know what he's doing off the ball. I'm like, I do. Unfortunately, I do.
It's a lot of this.
That's why they had to get rid of Kai. You know that, right? Because they just couldn't deal with that video that's still circulating after the Champions League victory. I don't know if you guys remember
it's
that
funny.
In the change room.
Yeah, I do. And it's funny because his face is like, that's all I see when I see Havertz, is him doing like, kind of almost like a squinty face.
He's a weird dude. He's a very weird dude. I love donkeys. That's so nice. Him and Werner, man. Werner's also a weird dude. He's like, what is this? You have eggs, ketchup. What is this thing? It's like a video interview they did with him about English breakfast, and it's like, what are you talking about, Timo?
I mean, English breakfast is kind of weird, so I can see it.
He wasn't getting hung up on the whole thing. He just was hung up on eggs with ketchup, and I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I know it's pretty common.
Ketchup on eggs is a weird thing. It's weird.
People don't know how to spice things. It's like, oh, I'll just condiment it. I think that's just the North American default. I don't know how to mix spices, so I'm just gonna get a sauce. Somebody made a sauce. The underlying
thing is sugar. It's just it's a vehicle for sugar.
I know, it's nuts when you actually get. This is off topic, obviously, but it's nice when you go to somewhere and they have like a house-made ketchup, and you're like, this is lovely. It's like a spicy, tangy tomato sauce. Oh, it's what ketchup is supposed to be, I guess. Not 75% sugar. High fructose corn syrup.
Like a beet ketchup,
nice and strong.
Justin, should I go like you and black out?
Brought to you by. We just sponsor ourselves with controversial things now.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Brought to you by the
Chick-fil-A.
By the American Tobacco Association and the High Fructose Corn Syrup Brigade. Change their name. It'd sound more serious.
The Brigade. Like that.
The Brigade.
Sponsored by the Sugar Lobby.
Gotta love cereal. Anyway, footy balls. Why don't we talk about what really is burning here, guys? Something that's close to two of our hearts. One of the other one's heartless, but it doesn't matter.
We want to go there right now?
Well, I think maybe we want to go there.
All right.
Want to talk about depth. We want to talk about certain people getting rejected by the Reddit community.
Fuck Reddit, man. The mods on the Liverpool FC subreddit are fucking douchebags. So I posted a depth chart last night of Liverpool, and it pissed some people off because like I put put someone at left center back, and they should be at right center back. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And someone's like, Jota can play 4 different positions. I'm like, you realize putting someone in 4 different places doesn't really illustrate how deep your roster is, right? That's just like inflating how many people you have on your team. Like I'm trying to show how skint we are.
Well, anyway, use the money they saved from not getting Caicedo to build a cloning machine. So now you have 4 Jotas.
Oh yeah, well, naturally. Yeah, and then I I fixed it and changed around to appease people, and I posted it, and then the fucking mods took it down, and then they put a post on it saying that it was a fucking low effort post. I'm like, see? Fuck you, low effort, you fucking piece of shit.
By changing. You should have never changed. You should stand your ground.
I spent like a little while building on Figma, and then I went and like engaged with people for like 4 hours getting feedback, and then rebuilt it again. And you call it fucking low effort? Or fuck you, fucking.
You should have just posted, "I'm walking alone, guys." broken heart emoji. Trigger all of them.
I think
the pacemakers would be sad right now.
I think that this whole Caicedo Lavia thing was really just us getting you guys to pay way over the odds for both of them so that we could swoop in and sign
That's
a 30-year-old swoop in and sign a 30-year-old defensive midfielder from Germany that nobody really knows about just to beat you to it. That was our game.
Don't you have a buyback clause for Minamino?
Maybe, but yeah.
I don't think they need another older version of it
anyway, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, having 14 attackers doesn't seem to be a problem for too many for a certain club right now.
It's honestly, I feel like they got two teams working. You know, there's people trying to acquire, there's people trying to do the old dash. They're like, oh, who's gonna get Ziyech? Because I feel like that is a job in itself. They hired somebody. Their job is to somehow rig some kind of medical system so that he can just get signed by somebody and he just becomes somebody else's problem. Lukaku, I haven't heard shit about him. All I heard, it's like I swear they paid all the publications as soon as Tottenham sold Kane. They're like, oh my god, let's just flood the gates with Luke's to Tots news, and it's gonna happen. It'll write itself, guys. History will write itself. And I have heard nothing about it. I would love for that to happen, but they're trying to offload a lot of people. Apparently, actually, Hall it might go for loan with a requirement to purchase Newcastle. They're playing in Europe now, so they're looking to get a proper second 11. I know they bought Livramento to cover the side or the right side, so they need some backup for Burn. And Maatsen, I think, might be sold too, which is sad because Maatsen is a solid player. But they're trying to get rid of a lot of players. I mean, even apparently Gallagher was tied to or was being rumored to be on the exit. And even Liverpool, I actually read an article about Liverpool being associated with him, which, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad purchase for Liverpool, but I don't really see why you want to get rid of another academy player. Yeah, I mean, he's a great player. He's got a great engine. He actually is very much a Liverpool kind of player. You know, he's got the dude he actually reminds me of Ramirez strictly because of his stamina. The dude runs nonstop. He is just they call him Cardio Connor because the guy is honestly always running. He never seems like he gets tired. Sometimes, like last year, I think he could have been. Some people didn't. Or I mean, I haven't felt this way that he was trying maybe a little bit too hard. It actually reminded me of back in the day when Salah, KDB, and even Lukaku were at Chelsea originally, and they were always like, even Marco Marin, who was supposed to be the next Messi.
Oh my god, I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, but all those guys, I remember when they were first starting, it's just like you're trying too hard, and you end up looking frantic. And Gallagher played so well when he was on loan at Palace, and then came back, and again, it's like a lot of pressure. You know, it's your childhood club, and you want to make it, and you've seen so many people not make it, and then become something. I mean, Declan Rice is another one who was an academy reject, and then ended up
Gallagher learned how to pass. He would be a good, like a very, very interesting player. But
I think this year is his year. I think he can calibrate himself. Yeah, I think maybe he needs. It might be best for his career to go somewhere else, especially considering all these players we keep buying, and the fact that we need to balance the books. I mean, that's why I think a lot of these players are like been pushed out. Even Kai. I know Kai was like, you're not performing very well. Yeah, well, I think they have about 10 years to balance the book. So,
well, not even that. I'm like,
I don't even pretend to understand how these are doing. Yeah, these like accountants are doing this voodoo. But I will say one thing. I said this in our group chat the other day. If these guys can afford to spend $1 billion on transfers, I think they can afford solid accountants and lawyers. To avoid these issues.
I was just going to say that it's I found it funny today that when I put the Jesus Christ case when I put the depth chart together of Chelsea, that there's so many players on Chelsea that none of us really realized that I put a starting 12 out instead of a starting 11.
Oh, you missed a few. You missed a few as well.
And the 12th position had a bunch of backups.
Well, no, I intentionally left Hudson-Odoi because I figured he's actually getting sold. But no, like I actually put 12 positions on the depth chart because there's so many fucking players. Because I was building it, and then all of a sudden I started putting a front three on top of a 3 and a 5. But like I'm looking at it right now. So like currently on the books, aside from Hudson-Odoi, you have 8 forwards, and then you
sounds right.
You have you've got 7 midfielders.
I gotta look at this now.
6 wing backs, whether they're left or right, and then you have another 7 central defenders, and then 3 keepers. Christ. And then you're also looking for another keeper as a backup to Sanchez,
and another attacker
because another attacker. So they always there's always these weird signs like Bettinelli. I'm just like, okay, cool, yeah, English guy. I thought he was Italian, but English, Italian heritage. But anyway, you sign this guy. Why?
Probably to fill like the homegrown quota, because like they have.
It's also so funny though. Yeah, they don't even have that anymore, right? Didn't they have that for like a season? They're like, nah, we're good.
Oh, I thought they still had that.
No, it's still there.
Do they?
It's still there.
Or did they change the requirement a little bit? It seems
Chelsea
like
just doesn't have to follow it because they don't have to follow any other rules. So,
well, hey, as long as they're on the team, they could be loaned out for 7 years. It's not a big deal, right? But even I look at this list you have here, and I'm like, so many of these players are going to be like Burstow, probably going to be loaned out. Olise is a question mark. Apparently, Crystal Palace is upset because they found out the very complex but low transfer clause that they had, and they're upset about it, but also about the pursuit themselves. I forget. I don't know exactly what the beef is there, but apparently there's a very, very complex release clause in his contract, and they sussed it out, and it equal to like 25 million pounds or something like that.
Weird, because I thought Olise was like a done deal yesterday.
I think it's 35.
You know what? I'm not going to say anything until I see him sign something. As per usual. You never know.
That's how I feel right now with our team.
That was the same thing with yeah, go for it.
Oh, I would imagine that's why Crystal Palace would be upset. They're seeing Mudryk and anyone else going for 70 to 100 million pounds, $100 million, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna lose our star player for 37 or 35."
Yeah,
whose fault is that? Like, what? Whose fault is that? Who has a release clause on somebody for 35 mil? I mean, apparently it was hard to figure out, but I mean, you're talking about billion-dollar clubs, brands. These people hire quite smart individuals who could figure this shit out.
I said that's just overlooking a contract that probably the players generally want release clauses and clubs don't. At least in England, and obviously La Liga and whatever, it's like automatic and forced. But like here, it's not that common in the EPL, right? So it's kind of funny that maybe they snuck one in and they're like, "Oh, it's super complicated. It's unlikely it'll be met or whatever." And it's like they just forgot about it.
Yeah,
it seems like an oversight to not know, right?
Deep into it. Yeah, it is funny, and it's like really. I mean, obviously he wants to leave. They had an agreement with the player before that even went through, but it's like you have to immediately accept it. There's nothing you can do about it. That's how release clauses work. But anyway, he's going to come in. Lukaku's going to get out somewhere. I honestly, I feel like it's even if they have to send him off to his own island and still pay for him. I mean, what an idiot. We talked about it last time. We don't even talk about it again, but what a moron.
I really hope you guys can't get him off your books. You just got to keep fucking paying him to sit around and do fuck all.
I saw the video
Not just pay
again,
him, but also don't register.
With the blocked goal.
Yeah,
exactly. But the blocked goal in the Champions League final, he's just sitting there like looking like an idiot. Oh, is that ball coming toward me? Is it? Oh, it hit me. God damn! Wait, I'm in front of the goal. Oh, the goalie wasn't there. Oh, damn! Are you stupid? Like you're a fucking professional athlete. His reaction speed was non-existent. Like
he was already thinking about what number you're at Juventus.
Could have fucking flinched more than this guy. Yeah, and then he was too busy dreaming about the old lady. 35 mental agility. But yeah, all these they're gonna loan out all these fucking players, man. And Cuckoo, apparently Cuckoo might be sold as well. Just something. Why'd you pay that much money for a backup? No one. He's not gonna be better than Chili Willy. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway,
and just like that wasn't just a small purchase. What was it, 70 fucking million? I remember when that first came out, I thought
it was.
This can't be real. Like, there's just no fucking way that this is a real deal. It's like, oh no, it was.
Even Fofana too. I was like, man, really?
End up playing him at fucking center back half the time. I saw him play as center back more than I saw him at left wing back or left back.
Okay, honestly,
like you just
no one in their right mind is going to say any manager we had apart from Tommy Tukes last season had any right being a top level manager. I have no idea how they ever got the job. It was just embarrassing. Well, I mean, especially you watch the game this weekend though. Like Bosch comes in, oh wow. So and honestly they didn't really make that many changes. Like we had Jackson in there, but Cuckoo's injured. And sure you had Disasi too, but for the most part, players that were around last season. And wow, they can actually pass. They can actually be progressive. It's possible. What changed?
Is that possible that it's down to the manager knowing how to manage a team?
I mean, I would say the number one thing is players like Enzo actually having a full preseason on top of the back of a half of last season.
Let me just get used to let me just get my little canoe here and backpedal a little bit from what I was saying last week. My name's Tibbs.
Oh God. No, but it's Putch even mentioned it though in preseason. He said another problem that they had last year was there's just too many bodies. As a coach, especially not as a very, very experienced coach, like for instance, Super Frank, man, like I love Super Frank, great player, but he's way out of his depth. And for any manager to manage that many bodies, you can't even get him in the dressing room around you to talk. How many? They had like 30 players there. Who am I talking to right now? Where is he? Mudrick, where is he? Okay, guys, move out of the way. I got to see him. I want to make eye contact.
Speaking of how many players, can we just go over the actual transfer list here that Uncle Todd has bought since he took over last year?
Oh God!
These are all in dollars. So in case anyone complains about the numbers.
Dollars.
So starting summer 22, Wesley Fofana, 88 million.
Jesus Christ. Pounds makes me feel like I forget the price.
Well, I don't have a conversion table right now, so we're going to go dollars. Cucurella, 71.5 million. Sterling, 61.5 million.
Oh, yo, worst signing ever. Hate Sterling.
Koulibaly, 41.6 million.
Fucking Koulibaly.
Chukwuemeka, 19.7 million.
He was very good at Napoli.
Emmerich Aubameyang, 13.1 million. Slonina.
Don't forget the loan fee for fucking Felix.
Well, Zakaria's loan fee was 3.3 million. So that was last summer. So January comes around.
He didn't even play. Did you guys ever play Zakaria?
He did. No.
I remember seeing him a couple of games.
He was honestly very good. He was injured for a decent amount of it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like the couple times I saw him, he seemed good. Like he's so fast and strong. I don't know what.
Great ball control. Great ball control. Yeah, honestly, I thought he was very, 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 very good looking on the pitch. Very sexy on the pitch. Nice moves. Very nice curves.
We get to January.
Keep going.
And this one bothers me because I just found the other day that we were actually offered this player for 15 million pounds last summer, but passed on it. And then had a great World Cup. And then you guys bought Enzo Fernandez for 132.5 million.
A great World Cup. Is that what you say?
Yeah. He had a great World Cup.
Slightly better than great.
But to be fair, in hindsight, it's Portuguese league players coming to the Premier League don't have a great track record. So I can understand why, clubs that are like just penny pinchers like Liverpool would be hesitant. 15 mil these days for a center mid that's like a senior center mid with potential is nothing. So that part is a little annoying. But to be fair, a lot of Portuguese league players come here and just immediately leave because they just cannot cut it, especially with the physicality.
But at the same time, didn't we also spend like 80 million or 70 million on Nunez, like in the exact same window? Like that's what I don't understand. It's like we took him, but we wouldn't take Fernandez for 15 million. It's insane.
But that's literally, he was like a top 5 striker prospect in the world. Whereas like for center mids of Enzo's profile before the World Cup, there's dozens and dozens, I would say, in that category.
Also,
which I think Nunes was overpriced, right? But
I don't want to get out too
very
off.
Few.
But at the same time, we knew for 2 years at that point that we needed more midfielders.
Yeah.
So
but that was just Mane, though. You got money for Mane, and you wanted a replacement for Mane. That's all that was. It was just a transaction. But yeah, you guys
just a very limited market, right? There's very few players who are like considered like absolute top striking prospects, but are not, far away from the first team. There's basically him, Haaland, and like maybe 2 others at the time. So it's and who are of
that
them
aren't at a club bigger than yours.
Sure, but my other point though is that like we've known for 2 years that we needed midfield reinforcements, and a decent player for 15 million was like not picked up.
Anyways, well, listen, now for 18, you got a 30-year-old. You got a 30-year-old Japanese instead, which I did read this today though, which was interesting because I actually do like him. I don't know if he'll adapt to the Premier League fast enough. He's a very weird running like gait, I guess you would call it. He's like fast but not fast. Weird, interesting player, but he had the most successful duels in the last 2 seasons in the Bundesliga.
Well,
seems like a band-aid purchase, but you guys just need depth, so it's kind of hard. Right? It's late in the game now, which is another thing. I was like, it's such a risk, especially for Liverpool. For Chelsea, it's different. It's like we need to get rid of players. It was less on the line, but Liverpool, it's like you guys are so desperate. You lose like Fabinho and Henderson in the same window,
and honestly,
kind of late in the game.
Yeah, Ox, Milner. Like we lost 5 senior midfielders.
Milner, I think, was expected is going to move on. Keita, I think, just never cut it at Liverpool.
No, he was always injured.
And Ox was promising. He was very good in the Bundesliga, but I just thought that it was like should have been done earlier. And I think Klopp had to basically. It sounded like he had to ruffle a few feathers to sort of even get them interested in battling for Caicedo. Because it seems like they just wouldn't give him the kitty to do anything when it's like, come on, man.
The whole Fabinho Henderson thing definitely took everybody off guard. So it was definitely like a matter of scrambling. But anyway,
I'm kind of surprised Henderson did just for the reason that there was not a lot of depth, right? That you kind of know that you're consciously a bit fucking over your club.
I think Henderson. Yeah. Well, Henderson, they had like a team meeting and stuff, and he said like he didn't want to hold the club back. So I think that he saw, 1, his role diminishing, but 2, he figured you guys are gonna be able to cash in on me for like a pretty decent price for a player my age that you should be able to turn back into buying some youth and stuff to like kind of replace me. But, we have really awesome people running the place right now. I miss Michael Edwards almost daily at this point.
You guys just need Everton's midfield. They're just next door. Just steal them. They won't
fucking dare you say that.
Honestly, though, Onana and Doucouré would 100% walk into that team right now because you literally don't have center mids.
I wasn't even joking because I was thinking Onana and Doucouré are actually fantastic midfielders, and you don't really have to pay a lot for the bus fare.
And listen, they don't really need to relocate. They already live there, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Bingo. Yeah, you don't need to sell them on the accent or the shitty weather or food. They're already used to it.
It's always on the accent. Just always going off on the accent.
Because not too long ago, I was on a train in Amsterdam. And I remember Rebecca was like, who is my wife, for those who don't know. But she turned to me and said, what is that accent? Are these people speaking English? I'm like, yes, honey. They're Liverpudlian. And that is, you're listening to one of the most irritating accents. And this is also low-class Liverpudlian, by the way. This is worker class and saying not low-class. I'm going to be PC about it. Blue collar. But anyway, it is quite unfortunate. I mean, there are nicer ones, but, just watch the video of anything Wayne Rooney says, ever. Or watch the video of Stevie G trying to speak Arabic.
That one's
pretty
really
good. Pretty good stuff.
I had a good laugh at that one.
I'm like, oh my God. It's just the accent makes it so much harder for you, buddy. I understand you're trying good effort, but Jesus Christ.
I will give Kara credit that over the years he's like definitely softened his accent as he's been working on Sky.
I was just saying, being a pundit, I swear to God, they hired somebody. Down.
Yeah, no, they hired somebody. He has like the King's Speech, individual
speech therapists every day.
That's not the word.
You go back to like his first season on stage, like, oh, like I used to. What was it? Whenever I try to get a Scouse accent, I was like, go to fucking Viagra, suck in me fucking neck. That's how I can. Yeah, I have to say those words. Go to fucking Viagra, stuck in me fucking words. Neck. Yeah, that's
man. It's like some weird. I don't even know, man. It's like got a bit of Scottish twang in there sometimes. You're like, what is going on in that? You know what's funny is that
it's like some Scottish, some Irish, some Welsh.
The tune accent too, though, is quite unfortunate.
Tune?
Oh, shall we naturally progress to my boy Tonali in having a beautiful debut?
Yeah, well, we didn't even finish. We haven't even gone through half of the fucking team that you've bought.
Oh shit, we got sidetracked. Oh yeah, where are we now?
So let's
how much did they spend? We are at Koulibaly.
Mudryk 76.6 million. Badashili,
we're not even halfway through January.
41.6 million. Madueke, or how do you pronounce his name? 38.8 or 38.3 million. Gusto 32.8 million. Andre Santos 13.7. Fofana 13.1. Sorry, that's David Fofana, not Wesley. Wesley was the first one. João Felix, $12 million loan fee.
Yeah, that was stupid. Christ. That was desperation. That was we're embarrassing ourselves. What can we do? Well, we're American and we're rich.
And he was garbage. That's the best part.
Yeah. And then he wants his dream move to Barcelona.
Oh, he had a beautiful debut, though. He was showing the beautiful color that he loves.
Right? Yeah.
So like, what team are you from? Oh, the red team. Goodbye. Go back outside.
And then we get to this summer. We got Gabriel for 16.4 million, Robert Sanchez 25 million, Ugo Chukwu 30 million, Jackson 40 million, Disasi 50 million, and Nkuku 65.7 million. And then the battle of the Brightons, or I guess whatever you want to say, Caicedo 146.1 million, and then you're going in for Lavia, which is going to be converted. It'll be like 70 million. And then, well, Elisa, if you get him, it's going to be a steal at like $30 million. But
that is a steal. Yeah, there's been a couple good pieces of business in there. Andre Santos was good. Badiashile was
a few
good.
under the 40 million mark, or under 35 million mark. There's a handful in there. Those are actually really good deals with especially French clubs that are just piss poor and they just don't have bargaining power. And a big dick Chelsea who's come in here with a checkbook and steal with like literally 5 the kind of high end prospects from or not prospects, but like high potential players from Liga for pretty small fucking fees.
Prefer
those are all playing in
Chelsea, by the way.
If they were playing in the EPL, some of those prices would be ridiculous. Like Gusto would have been 100%. 60, 70. Oguch, like that guy would be great piece of business. That would be 60. Like it's half price basically to go from Ligue 1. But to be fair, Ligue 1 is also a horrible place for players to actually adapt to the Premier League. They have a pretty bad percentage rate of players that actually make it here.
Yeah.
Also, there's two young players though that like Andre Santos was a great buy because I mean it's a gamble obviously with any of these like apparent or supposed wonder kids, but also Cesare Casade. I think you missed him. He was also a purchase.
Yeah, he went to Leicester just a couple days ago. He was loaned to Leicester.
Very, very good player. Played very well.
There's actually a perfect segue for one of the most annoying fucking things about Chelsea. Is you start with a bunch of fucking illegal cash injections, and realistically, you can tie this back to like Abramovich. This is 10 years ago. Buy 8,000 players. It's even more. But I mean, like, just in terms of if you want to do it, is like cyclically, like
the loan army,
massive, cash injection, which you shouldn't have done, but for different ways. And Man City does the same thing, just different ways of cheating to get that money in initially. And then what do you do with it? A pretty smart thing is fucking buy everyone. Loan out this army, and then if you buy a bunch of players that have decent potential, expectations, even if they don't fulfill them, you get a good amount of your money back. And also, if you have that kind of money, you can pick players. Like, that's the thing that drives me crazy when people say, "Oh, well, the net spend is not bad for this club. Look, it's similar to whatever, Man United, Arsenal, whatever." It's really, really just playing games of numbers, because at the end of the day, if you have an unlimited budget that's illegally brought in, and you get to pick and choose the prime targets you want with no budget on the back end, you can just pick targets that are going to have good resale value. You're not, for example, I see even Liverpool is actually a decent example here, where you're not kind of stuck looking between our own club philosophy, what age of players we want, profile that meets our coaches' requirements, and then also within budget. You have so many constraints to work with, and and the final thing being a self-fulfilling, self-sustaining model, financial model. You have literally 5 tiers of things you need to cross off to find a player that fits all of those and get it. That's a difficult thing to do versus you come in saying, listen, we don't have a budget. We're going to go to Lyon, tell them, here's $30 million, give us that fucking player. And once you do that, even if 70% of your players get sold on later and they're not really successful, you end up making so much money back that every year they say, look, our net spend is not that bad. But it's just a fucking self-perpetuating cycle of bullshit. And Man City have done it slightly differently. Without a loan army, they just picked really high-value targets.
And you just described capitalism.
So here's the quick little comparison between City and Chelsea with this whole thing. So Chelsea, or sorry, I'll start with City has spent since Pep took over about £1 billion since 2016. In 15 months, I guess, as you could say at this point, it works out to just shy of £900 million is what Boehly and Company has spent. And we've been complaining about the bullshit of City spending and their financial power, blah, blah, blah. And we're also looking at like Newcastle on the horizon. But these fuckers have done it in just over a year, what we've been complaining about for almost a decade was City.
We haven't won anything yet, so don't complain until the trophies start coming in, right? Also, whatever happened to all those 100+ infractions that Man City were caught up doing? Weren't those actually proven? And then
it was 115 or some shit.
We're gonna get them real good, guys.
Investigated.
Oh, the season started. Let's enjoy. Here's some popcorn. Yeah. I think that's what happens every time. It's the problem is that it's all a business, and at the end of the day, it's good for the Premier League. It's good for the FA to have these top-notch players. And
sadly,
but that is how it works. And what you're saying, Tibbs, your breakdown of the whole let's buy players in this small amount. That's happening. That's you're basically explaining the real estate market as well. I'm going to buy 15 condos. I'm going to Airbnb them all out, make more money than my mortgage.
Ideal scenario, it would be stopped, and that's one thing. But I think what bothers me more than that, because that's what do you call it, systemic change. That's a big issue. Is not going to get solved in one season, whatever else. What bothers me more, just as a personal annoyance, is just seeing people conflate the idea of net spend and just think that it's all even. And a second dimension of that is not looking at bonuses and salaries, which again massively changes the picture. Because a club like Man United and let's say Chelsea and Man City, the salaries they pay is worth more than the actual outlay of transfer funds. So you can't look at that and say compared to another club, be like, oh well, look, there's similar spending. It's but these things that we're not accounting for makes it a completely different picture. So it's a meaningless comparison.
That's what Chelsea's doing differently, though. Is they have a very much an American contract signed with all these new players that is heavily performance based, and apparently that's one of the reasons they're going to be very strict with Sterling. Is that Sterling is actually on an older contract, legacy contract, if you will, where he's getting paid a lot of money per week. Doesn't matter how he performs. These other players, there's a lot of clauses in there if you get X amount of goals, you're going to get this bonus. If you do this, you're going to get this bonus. In the third year of your contract, you're going to get this increase, whatever it may be. You're guaranteed to get an improvement at this point. And that's another way that they're kind of getting away with it and spreading it out, which eventually the Premier League is actually going to close that loophole. I thought they already closed it, which is funny enough, but apparently it's going to happen. I don't even know if it's going to be the beginning of 2024. or the summer transfer window, but they're going to close it. And it's funny that they didn't move quicker because you already knew it. They showed their cards fully in January last year that this is how they're going to go about it. They're going to do these long-term contracts where they're paying people out over a long period of time.
Well, I don't think they're changing
as well as these bonuses.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they're changing the rule for contracts. I think it's just for transfer fees paid to clubs.
Yeah. Well, that part of the contract, right? The contract with the club, not with the player.
Yeah,
and that's what they're doing, right? They're spreading it out to say, "Hey, I only paid $15 million for Google, but I didn't."
The funny thing with this, though, with both ends of that, is that it's really useful for a club that has money today and expects like success very quickly, both for the contract and for the actual transfer fees. But what it does is it puts you on like a collision course for 5 years from now or 4 years from now. Let's say, for example, Caicedo and 8 of his recent signings. I don't know, let's say half of them have pretty bad next 2 seasons. Their value drops significantly, and even if they're making not necessarily their full contract worth, the amount of capital tied up in those things or those transfers, and being unable to get past FPP or whatever, like FFPP, like you're going to be stuck pretty much banking that these players have to fucking make it, because you're not going to go out and spend $1 billion next season or the next 2 seasons, because you're going to have every year already taken out a bunch of, like, you're taking loans for future fair play regulations, basically.
Yeah, but I don't know. See, this is the one thing that I'm still unclear about, which I need to find out. But let's say I buy a player. Let's use just a nice round number. Let's say I'm going to buy this player for £80 million, and I'm going to spread it out 20 million every year for the next 4 years. That's what I'm going to pay for him. Now, if in year 2 you want to sell him, you're now 40 mil in the hole. You haven't paid the remainder 40 mil. If you pay him or if you sell him right then it's like, okay, I'm just going to take that transfer money and I'm going to, do I give it? I guess you have to then, I don't know how these clauses work. You're going to have to give 40 million to that original club that you bought him for.
Yeah, it's like two separate transactions.
20. But it's like that 40 mil spend never happened.
But the difference here, though, is that so when you have, let's say you're buying them for 80 million, right? You're not paying that over 4 years, 5 years. There's going to be like 3 payments over like a year and a half that you got to make to that club. But on your books, when you're forging your numbers and shit, you're going to say, oh, we're only paying out of our net spend 20 million per year. That's what we're going to charge back as like a deficit each year.
Is that actually what they're doing, or that's what you're guessing?
That's how the accounting works, is that you amortize it on your books as a spend per year, but you actually have to pay to that club over a much shorter time.
Well,
that's what I'm unclear about, what that period of paying the club is. That's what I want.
It depends on the club, though, right?
There's no club that's going to let you pay them $80 million over fucking 8 years. Like they're not going to allow that to happen.
But there are some that I remember reading before. Arsenal did this for a few transfers in our last, when Emery was there, and we did a bunch of stuff with Pepe and whatever. We did have some that were like 4-year splits, which at the time was like kind of not really common.
4 maybe, sure, but I mean, you're
8 years is not happening.
5, 6, 7, 8 years, that's not going to happen.
No, I'm not talking about that. I was talking I thought that was a good example of like 80 mil, 20 mil a year for the next 4 years. And it's like a club, maybe a lower club would be like, I'd like a steady injection like that, and I can guarantee getting maybe a higher price for this player, which is what Chelsea's doing too. Like, I will pay you more than anybody else for this player, but these are the stipulations. I'm just unclear because obviously I'm not privy to this. I don't know if it's even public domain to be able to see this information on what the nitty gritty is. Like, I'd be curious to see. Caicedo is a good example because it's recent, of exactly how that payment is happening. In terms of their accounting representation of that, that's a whole different story. But I'm wondering how Brighton is being paid for Caicedo. Is this a lump sum? Is this over the period of a year? Is it 2 years? Is it the majority this year?
My understanding is
I don't know how it's
almost all football transfers that are in large amounts are never in one sum, like one wire transfer. It's broken up into pieces.
I don't think it is too, but the question is like
it's usually over not too long of a time. Like, it's going to be maybe months, a year and a half, depending on what they agree on. But it's usually almost never in a large transfer. One actually is what I read on the subject.
Yeah, it'll be several payments over a couple of years for sure.
Yeah, I highly doubt it's one lump sum. I'm just that's my question mark, right? I don't know what exactly that breakdown is. How long of a period and how much? What is the amount?
The funny thing with that though is that Brighton could spend that money immediately. A good example is when Spurs sold what's his name? I was going to call him the monkey, Gareth Bale, and
you're allowed to call
think
him
of the
monkey.
name for a second.
Yeah, I was worried where you were going to go with that one. But Bale, like, okay, we'll let that slide. All right, that's good.
Yeah, that's all right. We checked that with our lawyers. You're all right. Go ahead.
All right, Liga's giving me the go ahead. So
another
they got
episode cancel free.
Yeah.
They got $100 million for him, and they turned around and spent it in the same window because, again, it's basically IOUs for big companies, right? You have a guarantee of incoming.
Wasn't that quite
money.
Possibly one of the worst spends of $100 million that window too?
That was great. Lamela is a fantastic player.
Not at Spurs though. He's been very good at other clubs, which is the funny thing. But
he was not made for the Premier League.
I think Ericsson was the only good, or is there one other? I think because of they bought 8 players, and I think there was 2 good ones in there, like Ericsson and someone else. But anyways, my point being is that Brighton can go out and spend the money now because they have a guarantee of that money coming in. So even though now they give someone else an IOU in the same way that Chelsea have given them an IOU, so they still use it. So it's kind of irrelevant.
I had a joke that I wanted to say earlier. I just couldn't find a time to get it out. But when you said that Sterling's contract was a little old, I was going to say, are you trying to say this contract is prehistoric?
No,
dude, I found it. You want the breakdown of what they used the Bale money for? I got an article.
Yeah, let's do it. Why not? Fuck it.
All right, let's do it. Nassr Chadli, $7 million.
Oh man, he actually wasn't bad for them, to be fair.
Vlad Chiriches,
$8.5 million.
Etienne Capoue, $9 million. Christian Eriksen, 11.5. Steal.
That was a steal.
Paulinho, who ended up killing it at Barca, 17 million though from Corinthians. Eric Lamela, 25.8 from Roma.
Back then, that was a huge fucking.
The great Roberto Soldado, 26 mil, Valencia. He was a flop and a half. That's it. Those are the buys.
And what was it, like 2011 or something?
Oh,
I feel like he scored 3 goals. That was not good.
This was Eric Lamela. 2013 was Lamela.
I'll be right back.
When did he come in here?
Oh, 2013.
No, he left Spurs for Villarreal.
Yeah, the Bale transfer was 2013.
Yeah, 2013. This is all 2013.
That's crazy. 26 million in 2013.
Dude, you know what I just forgot about? Because I was just reading about Paulinho. It's like, oh, he went to Barcelona. He played pretty well. And then he went to Guangzhou. I almost forgot about China trying to do what Saudi Arabia did.
Yeah.
I'm very interested if it's going to end the same way. You remember like Drogba went there. Oscar went there in his prime. It was sad. Ramirez also in his prime. Chelsea sold a lot to China, actually.
I feel like Saudi has more sustainability just because of the pure amount of cash that like the state has.
I think they also have a slightly more accessible country.
Yeah.
Slightly.
For sure.
Yeah, but it's funny. All the Brazilians were there. Remember Hulk? Hulk went there. Didn't Falcao go to China? Did he? No, he went back to South America. Did he? I don't know.
I remember like Oscar went. Ramirez went.
Man, I almost forget about like all these number 9 that came to Chelsea that tried to fill Drogba's boots, and you think about like Alexander Pato and Falcao.
Oh God, yeah, you guys did have Pato for a while. I forgot about that too.
Pato, like I remember him at AC. He was solid.
Yeah.
Falcao didn't go. He went to Galatasaray. That's where he went.
Okay.
It's so funny. He was at Monaco. He got loaned to Manchester United from 2014, 2015. Then the next season got loaned to Chelsea. Meanwhile, Manchester in Man U, he made 26 appearances, 4 goals. Chelsea, 10 appearances, 1 goal.
Yeah, he was a flop at both.
Galatasaray, 34 appearances, 19 goals. But you know what's crazy? Atletico Madrid, 2011 to 2013, 68 appearances, 52 goals.
Yeah, he was a machine there.
Dirty. Even Monaco, 108 appearances, 65 goals.
Talking about, don't say his name, the fucking Colombian guy.
Hell yeah, El Tigre.
El Tigre. I was trying to guess just based on the clubs.
I thought you said not to say his name. That you were going to say like El Jefe.
Who's El Jefe?
Or El Tigre. Why can't I think of his name right now? Cocaine guy.
Escobar.
He who shall not be named.
Listen, Voldemort is going to come shoot you in your fucking bed, okay?
Hey, so I was hoping that the Forest was actually going to tie it up and make you guys sad on Saturday.
Well, it's funny because that goal, I actually loved the goal that Forest scored. Like, the player as well, I actually love Tewo, like the striker.
Yeah, like
he is so fucking fast and so fucking big. I love players like that who are just immense athletes with immense strength and yet somehow are so mobile. And like, yeah, he's not gonna have the agility to turn like, sharp corners and stuff and dribble people in the box. But when he gets in a straight line, holy shit! And he just came back from injury, ran half the length of the field after getting the ball, like I think at half, and then actually scored a nice goal off of it too. Well, I guess not necessarily a nice goal, but a nice play. And it's like, yeah, it's against Arsenal, it's against my club, but I really did actually enjoy that goal.
You can't hate on a good goal. That's the thing, right? No matter what team you support or even if they're scoring against you in an important game, you can still appreciate it. There's so many times. I mean, like, there's times when I detest City, but then you see a run of play and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was nice. Like a ball by KDB. And you're like, I'm not going to hate on KDB. Sad that he's injured for a long time. Timber too. 6 months is.
If Haaland gets injured, Arsenal, I think we actually might be able to win the league. If KDB and Haaland are injured for several months of the year, that's the only chance.
You know what I want?
There is for anyone to win the league other than City.
I feel like it's going to happen. Not that I want this to happen. I feel like this is going to happen though. Haaland's going to get injured. City's going to start to languish a bit. They're going to fall back. Arsenal's going to be like, oh, it's ours. Then they're going to typically, as they do, shit the bed and then fucking watch just Newcastle. Be like, all right, we'll take it.
Honestly, if anyone other than City wins, I wouldn't be mad at it. Like, I would like it to be Arsenal, but I would be
honestly,
happy
I wouldn't mind it being a refresher of a team that doesn't normally. I mean, honestly, any team that isn't City is a team that doesn't normally win it, so it'll be fine either way. But I wouldn't even be upset about Toon winning it. They're playing pretty good football.
I would as well, but I wouldn't want to see Newcastle do it just because it reinforces the whole money from.
Okay, well, good players make a good team, and money buys players. So money, therefore, can give you success. Doesn't equally doesn't literally translate to that, but it gives you the platform. Unfortunately, and some teams don't have historical wealth and haven't invested properly to have that. Like you look at a club like Arsenal or Manchester United or even Liverpool, who have a long history and have a lot of money that has been invested and built into the team, and they're a successful business and have been for a long time. And for all these other teams to make it, they need a bit of an injection. I mean, look at City. We were at a fucking City game. Remember? They just bought fucking, what the hell? Who was his name? What was his name? No, B. Started with B. Oh man, it was Yakubu.
What position?
Fucking hell! Was he a striker?
Oh no, is the guy from Zimbabwe?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Benny. Fucking.
Dude, well, we're gonna figure his name, but anyway, Yakubu. I think was it Everton City? And Yakubu was playing.
It was. It wasn't Yakubu. It was Lescott, and Lescott scored 2 goals.
Benny, what the fuck is your name?
Yakubu was on that team, wasn't he?
I don't know if he was there at the time. Ben Yanni is his name.
Ben Yanni. I almost said Ben Ayoun. I'm like, no, it's not fucking Israeli Ben Ayoun. But yeah, I remember we were there, and this like that was pre-Etihad as well. That stadium was whatever, and Blue Moon was sung decently strong, and they had purple jerseys, and they were shit.
I kind of wish I actually bought that one.
You need to. It's like, hey, let's make up for like a loss of having a wealthy history for the last like 100 years. It's like 40 years or so, and let's make up for that in about 5 years by just tossing cash in. But at the beginning, it was like they're chicken without a head, buying everybody, not working. That's why these clubs have to get somebody at the helm, which is the thing that's fucked Chelsea though, is that they don't have that consistency of like a Klopp or Guardiola or even Arsenal has had faith in their managers. They've had a few shitty managers since Wenger left, even near Wenger's latter years. But it's like you believe in a player and then you have some kind of system there. But those clubs actually have that belief higher or more ingrained in the club than at the manager level too, which allows them to have some consistency in the way that they have been running their business and keep them profitable. And it's tough for the other teams to try to play catch up. I'm not saying that it's a good way to do it. I just feel like I don't really know how else they're going to do it other than taking 20 years to maybe potentially catch up. But in those 20 years, those other clubs have continue to expand. Like look at Man U's like revenue is insane from media and even merch sales. Like they're a huge global brand, one of the most successful. Like you look at the profit, it's like Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Manchester United are powerhouse brands.
Yeah,
these guys are like fucking Gucci, but more accessible.
It still blows my mind that United can still be within the financial.
They make so much money, man.
But they have 500 million pounds in debt. That. I understand it's an accounting thing, but it just blows my mind that that's possible.
But when you see the profit from media sales and all these other things that they pull in every year, it's obscene. It's obscene. They could not qualify for Europe, play like shit, and these guys are still making bank.
Yeah, their commercial numbers are crazy.
Yeah. It's absolutely mental.
I do wonder if that'll ever change, right? If people ever think like, hey, for a long time they've been this club that everyone, globally or recognize this and that, but if they have a few more years of mediocrity, I wonder if that will actually make the brand suffer.
I was going to just bring that up. Somebody said that about
apart.
Yeah, but somebody said that recently about these players like Caicedo and Lavia picking Chelsea, like actually verbally or like individually deciding to pick Chelsea over Liverpool. And somebody put a good theory together and they said, I think there's actually validity in this. They said, if you think about a young player that's maybe 20 odd years old, the last 10 years has been basically Man City, a bit of Liverpool in there in recent years because of Klopp, which, you can't say anything bad about what Klopp's done there. But for the most part, it's been City, Chelsea, Manchester United in the last 10 years that has really dominated English football. So when you think about a player making a decision that's that young, like who are they thinking about? Like who did they grow up idolizing? These are like people who are like, oh, Drogba was my idol, or Michael Essien, or any of these kind of players, And it's kind of interesting because go back 10 years and it's a totally different thing. It's like, well, Chelsea, I don't know, they're new kids on the block. They're not really that good. But if you're young, that's all you know. It's kind of interesting thinking about the next generation and like what they've been exposed to football wise, and like what they think a successful team historically is, because their history is a very short window. They're not talking like, oh, this club was big in 1910. It doesn't matter to them, right? It's kind of interesting aspect to look at.
That's even why with the whole Caicedo thing, like I wasn't like when it became apparent that like he decided that he had chosen Chelsea as his goal, I wasn't even bothered, but like, okay, well, that's where he wants to play. So good on him.
Why would you want a player that doesn't want to be at your club anyway, right?
100%. Yeah. It's like, I wasn't bothered by it whatsoever. The whole thing with Lavia though is like, little upset that he ended up changing mind, but I know that it's entirely our fault because he felt like, well, I'm just your second choice. Like you were in for me, and then you were heckling over fucking what, £2 million. You wanted to pay 48. Brighton just wanted 50. You wouldn't pay that. Then 2 days later, you go and put £110 million bid out on Caicedo. It's like, well, fuck you guys then. Why would I ever want to sign for you when like there's like that much? It's crazy.
Southampton wanted 50, not Brighton. But yes.
Sorry. I
getting them confused. God damn it, these two clubs, fuck them both.
All these fucking things.
No, I agree. I read that article too that he actually came out and said, I felt like I was second choice, and Chelsea didn't fuck around. They came in, they gave what was asked. I think they made one bid just to test the waters, and then they made a serious bid.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, is it good for your career? Are you going to start
55 million like a week ago or whatever when we were haggling over 2? But yeah, in that case, like even there, like I can't be mad at Lavia. Can't be mad at Caicedo for going to a club that he wanted to play for. Cool, awesome for you. And I can't be for Lavia for being fucking put off by a team that really insulted him. And like, I'm embarrassed that it got to there. Like that was it's kind of silly. But at the same time, I will say the slight little caveat to that is that, well, you know, Lavia, you were actually the third choice at Chelsea because they did have a deal in place for Tyler Adams. He did have his medical, and then they're like, we're going to go for Caicedo. So like there were still other players that were ahead of you.
What happened that deal though? He had a lingering injury. And that was the reason, apparently. There was a lingering injury. There was something with his contract that they didn't like after they went through all that stuff. And it was like, I don't think we're going to go with this. But yeah, for sure. But I don't think that I don't know. Who knows what happens behind closed doors? Like, is Liverpool like whispering sweet nothings into the guy's ear and then turning around and bidding 100 mil for Caicedo right after? Like, maybe that happened. I just thought it was interesting take to, because I never thought about it. Like, if you're a young player, what teams are big teams to you? You know, what are successful clubs in your mind? Because, you know, of people of our generation, it's just like, I know Chelsea was just like, oh yeah, well, they came out and they had a whole bunch of money and they bought like Super Frank and, you know, Drogba and all these players, and then they became successful. So still, I think, oh yeah, it's Man U, it's Liverpool. These are the people who won Champions Leagues consistently in leagues and whatever. And Arsenal was there too. Invincibles not that long ago for us, but some people are like, Invincibles. Yeah, like, old man, get off. I'm not on Facebook, guy.
I was born 20 years after that happened. What are you talking about?
For real.
You know, Tibbs, just back on that Iwoni thing real quick. We sold him to Union Berlin 2 years ago for 8.5 million euros. And then last year, Forest bought him for 20.5 million.
It's funny because I was following him when he was at Union. Yeah. And I was just like, man, how did Liverpool just say this guy? Like, I think there was a work permit issue at some point or something, right? Like, there was some annoying thing that was like, hey, he looks pretty good, but you know what? Maybe it's not worth the effort. And then they're like, oh shit, he's actually good.
Yeah, it's like because he was basically on loan like the whole time he was with us, but yeah, because we had him on our books for 5 years, I think is what it looks like. We had him for.
Every club's got a couple of those players. You know, you're just like, we have too many of them. But even I remember like seeing Gnabry like kill it at Bayern a few years ago. It's kind of dwindled down a bit, but I remember just thinking, fuck, I remember that guy when he was like kind of okay at Arsenal. And then he just became a beast.
Being like a mediocre player at Arsenal to be like, who is this guy? Like, is there something in the water in Germany or something?
Yo, that was the time. It was like they signed Goretzka, and then all of a sudden there was like a photo of him training in the summer, and the guy's just ripped, and they're like, that's the fucking Bayern diet over there. Yeah. These guys just turn into machines. Man, it's crazy. Some of those players, though, it's like, even you look at like Joshua Kimmich, it's like, what happened to these guys? They used to be such. I mean, maybe just because they're not performing in the Champions League that much anymore. Who watches Bundesliga other than Art? But
is Art here?
Seems like they dwindled down a bit, man.
If he is or not.
No.
It's funny that even Man U wanted Pavard too. It's just like, man, has he done anything since that ridiculous goal at the World Cup? Was that World Cup or Euro Cup? Euro Cup, I think.
I think that was Euro, yeah.
I think it was Euro Cup. Yeah, that was a ridiculous screamer of a goal. And then he went to Bayern, and then I was like, kind of happens at those clubs though, right? It's like you're a big name and you go to this like pool of big names and you just become a whatever. Upamecano, prime example. Him? Yeah, I remember him. And then before you even know it, you turn on a Dortmund game and you're like, oh, wasn't that guy at Bayern? When did that happen? I saw like Sula in fucking Dortmund jersey. I'm like, oh yeah, he did go there. So incestuous that you don't even know. Like, did he come from there originally? He didn't, but he ends up there. They always end up there. Almost.
It is kind of crazy, like how many of those players just kind of hop around from team to team in the same league.
It's like that though in those leagues, right? Look at Spain. Any of the. I mean, I think Premier League is far more competitive. There's way more teams that are at the top level, so it happens less often because they don't want to fuel the competition that can actually legitimately beat them. Whereas you look at Italy, and I mean, Italy's a little bit more even, but Italy, Spain, and Germany, it's very incestuous with the transfer, which is so funny because I remember I was playing not too long ago. I was like, oh, I'm going to start a manager mode in Chelsea in FIFA in the Italian league. So I'm like, oh, cool. I'd love to pick Napoli, but they don't have the rights for the jerseys and their fake jerseys look horrible. So whatever. I was like, all right, I'll just pick AC Milan because I can't handle looking at this horrible fake. I don't even know what the hell they called it. I forget what they even called them in that league. But anyway, every time we try to buy somebody from another Italian club, it's like, oh, they won't deal with you. They won't deal with a rival. I'm like, you obviously don't know how this league works. That's all the transfers that happen. Why wouldn't they sell them to me? Obviously, like I should be exclusively buying from other Italian clubs because that's just how this league works. But it's funny. I think Lukaku took that a little too far, though. I still can't believe that whole saga, but it's quite funny. I don't know if you guys watched that video too. It was like all the fans from Juve just been like, "We don't want Lukaku."
Yeah, honestly, I feel bad for him because it's just like there's not many teams that are going to pay his wages, his transfer fee. Like, and he did fuck it up, but it's like
he needs to just at that level, come to the like realization that Saudi Arabia is the only.
There's like 5 clubs that could even afford him, and most don't want a player of his profile. And he's done a bunch of shit to make people maybe not be excited about signing him anyway. So it's just kind of funny that you really did
not. The problem is that he's not good enough to be that big of a dick. Like, it's one thing if you're like Ronaldo at the prime of his career.
Or like Ibra, who could go from like club to club like that. And
But it's funny because Ibra is like, even when you feel like he's not performing, like, oh, he was at Man U, he didn't do that well. I'm like, I'm pretty sure his numbers were actually pretty decent.
His numbers were good at United, yeah. If it wasn't for him blowing out his knee, he would have like crushed that season, I think.
Yeah, but then you have him, and it's like, buddy, after what happened in the Champions League final, I think you can't say anything to anyone. Yeah, Manchester United, 30. So there's Zlatan, 33 appearances for Man U, 17 goals. That's not bad.
No, not at all.
And this is pretty late in his career. Even PSG, 122 appearances, 113 goals.
Yeah, he was insane.
That's actually pretty good.
Paris.
He's an AC man, 32 appearances, 28 goals. The guy's numbers are actually great.
Have you seen any of the clips of his retirement announcement?
At AC?
No.
Yeah.
I saw some of it, yeah.
There's a moment where like he like full on like breaks down and cries. And like I've seen it a couple times and it ruins me every time I see it. It's just like you can just see the pain in his face of like that this is over and he's like just holding on and can't quite accept it. And every time I'm just like, fuck, like I can't imagine what that feels like right now.
Honestly, I think it's because of his attitude, but I was like, I always thought he underperformed. Even I'm like, oh, he went to MLS, but he didn't do anything. LA Galaxy, 56 appearances, 52 goals.
Yeah. And wasn't his first appearance where he scored that ridiculous goal?
I remember he scored a ridiculous goal against
or a hat trick.
TFC. We were all at that game, no?
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Nice goal. Like, not a bicycle kick, but like a twirling kick for his 500th career goal.
Yeah, I was like, honestly, you made us look like shit, but fucking great goal, man. Glad that I could see that. It's kind of funny, like our exposure to some of these players. Because remember, it's like, oh, I remember. I've seen Frank Lampard play and Pirlo. Sure, they were at NYCFC, way past their prime, but I've seen them. David Villa was there too. I've seen all those players. God,
yeah, David Villa was there too.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Bard in our fantasy league, he gets to see Messi on Saturday for $22.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Was it Nashville?
It's in Nashville,
right? Yeah. Tennessee. Man, that's the worst joke, you know? Well, I don't even know how that starts. You're the only 10 I see? Something like that? You from Nashville because you're the only 10 I see? Something like that.
Yeah, it's something cringe like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could use some fucking Nashville barbecue. Nashville hot chicken.
Should we just road trip down to Nashville this weekend and
scalp some tickets?
Dude, it's funny. That's like the only reason to go to America is to eat shitty, terrible, cardiac arresting food.
I mean, we don't have to go to America for that.
Bible thumping. I'm surprised that some things. Sometimes it's kind of annoying though. It's like there's certain stores in the States, and they just never even. This is obviously not footy related, but they sometimes make a foray into Canada, but rarely succeed. It's kind of funny because even like Nordstrom, it's kind of interesting because I used to like going to Nordstrom on the rack. It's like Winners, but better. You know, you can actually get like a shoe that isn't like a rip-off version of a shoe you think it is. It's like, oh, they got Reeboks at Winners. Like, nah, man, the Reeboks are normally leather. This is like some kind of pleather thing that they made specially for this shitty store that you could buy a discount version of. But there you could actually get, the actual shoe.
What's funny? There was a store, it used to be a chain in the US, and it was the third tier of Nordstrom. So it would be like Nordstrom Rack would take kind of some overstock stuff.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this store's called Last Chance, and it was literally the third of this barrel of shit. And it was actually funny because it was like Winners, where you might find some bullshit, you might find some amazing stuff, and it had like anything that's been returned, which sometimes stuff would be fucked up, sometimes it would be fine. But I remember like I got a $1,200, probably a little bit more suit, and I think I paid like $100 for it, and a bunch of shoes and other stuff. Where it's just like I would never buy that stuff here because the price difference is just like fucking crazy. And that's one store I wish they had it more. Even if it was across the border in like the northern states, I would go there. But they only have one left, and it's in Arizona. I'm not going to go to Arizona to go shopping.
On the Nordstrom on the Rack is good too. I mean, you used to go to the one at Yonge and Bloor that was there, and anytime you want like gym shoes, for instance, like just go there. They're like $30-$40 for a shoe that would normally be $100-$120. Why wouldn't you just do it? Even when you go to like another thing in the States, which Yara even mentioned was why can't I think of the name?
Trader
Joe's. Yeah, they got some good stuff in there too, man.
I want to stock up on some snacks.
Yeah, and they got better burger joints too. Wait, I don't probably bad to have them here because it's turned into a fatty, but love me some of them disgustingnesses every once in a while. We've digressed terribly. That's what footy is about.
That was a hell of a tangent right there.
So that's how you know it's getting late. We're all sitting here just fucking dreaming of food and cheese and shopping and fuck.
I'm dreaming of a nice cold water because I feel like it's still 28 degrees and it's 10:36.
Oh yeah, you don't have AC in your fucking place, do you?
Nobody thought in the West Coast that you needed AC until we started dropping carbon dioxide into the environment.
Yeah, I heard it happened overnight.
I mean, I have a window unit for my bedroom. Otherwise, I would never be able to sleep.
Oh my God. Yeah, I wouldn't either.
It's hot. It's very hot. But yeah, nobody. It's a huge issue now in apartment buildings here because no apartment buildings really have AC. A lot of them don't have the actual electrical grids to support window units. the old building I was at. I was like, why? This is ridiculous. This is like a criminal. You can't say that I can't have a window unit. Like I'm melting here. Like, no. Like the power will go out. If we don't have the grid to support that. If you do it and run it all night, it might just blow it. Somebody else will do it because you have it, and then we're screwed. I'm like, okay, cool. That's awesome. This 1970 building is great, and I'm glad you built it and kept it around.
I think getting a central AC is one of the best, probably the best purchase I've made in the last few years. And at first I didn't really think it was that necessary, and now this summer I was like, oh fuck, I'm so glad I got this shit.
Yeah, no, it's great, especially you own it. Obviously, it's a great investment. It's going to help resale value a lot. They don't just demolish your house anyway and build some kind of monstrosity. You're still doing it, so it doesn't matter. But it keeps you cool.
Save the AC.
Yeah, we'll keep the heat pump, but demolish everything else. Anyway, we should probably wrap it up now because people have probably realized that we're talking nonsense and they probably already unsubscribed. But that means that they subscribed. So
that is a positive. Yeah, we'll take the positives as much as we can.
Yeah,
clip it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
let's get this slap in the face and a little bit of a caress afterwards. Like, oh, was it bad or was it good?
It's a backhanded compliment.
Lovely. I'll accept it because compliment was in the sentence. Got to plant that positivity.
Well, that's this week's away end. We'll see you next time.